Hello, this is Kenny Williamson. Welcome back to another episode of Melchizedek Chronicles. It's another day here in Arkansas, and another day for a podcast. Today's podcast is going to be is one of the things I really like to do. I like to kind of go over questions and comments that I get quite a bit of. And I let them build up for a little bit so I have a little bit more commentary, time to talk about them, if you will. So, yeah. So let's just jump right in. I did a podcast here, a few days ago, about Bart Sabrell and Danny Jones. And it was a podcast by this Danny Jones guy, who, like I said, he seems to be very uninformed on everything, but he's very opinionated on everything. And so he interviewed Bart Sabrell, and he had all kinds of questions for a former astronaut. Okay, and my opinion on that particular topic on that particular podcast is that the old man that was there, the 90-year-old astronaut, he just kept repeating over and over that he went to the moon. And maybe he believes it. Maybe he's a liar. I'm not sure. But if he does believe it, I believe it's because something like MK Ultra, some kind of a mind control deal. And it's been implanted in his head, and he has this reoccurring memory, but he doesn't really remember anything else. So anyway, on that particular podcast, I had a question here, but it says, by the name of Timmy, it says, off-topic question, do you believe anything about the mud flood? I think a lot of brick buildings that are buried are from Noah's time. In the book of Genesis, it says there were master brick makers, and I think it would explain why all these buildings are half buried. Bricks last a very long time. Well, excuse me, I do believe, obviously, there was a flood of Noah. Okay, so the Bible talks all about the flood. And prior to the flood, we had giants living on the earth, and we had fallen angels impregnating women. So we had fallen angels running around, we had giants running around, and I'm sure the technology back then, of course, the people were living, Methuselah lived to be 969 years old back then. So people are living thousands of years, or almost 1,000 years, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years per person, okay? What I'm trying to say. So can you imagine somebody that's really smart, and instead of, dying off at 70 and getting sick, they're like a child at 70, and they don't die till they're 800 or 900 years old? And they have been trained and understood things by fallen angels, literally sons of God that have fallen from heaven. And, these angels were there with creation probably. They know everything. They know how to get minerals out of the ground. They know how to probably use sound to levitate things. They know all about sounds, frequencies, stuff that we forgot about. And so these guys are living back then, and so they're thinking about this stuff, and they can think about it for, 800 years. So I am sure they knew all about architecture, all about everything. And as far as like, we're evolving, we're getting better. No, we're de-evolving. Okay? See, that's one of the reasons why the devils, the government, all that, they don't want you to know anything about what the Bible says because they want to teach you evolution. They're pretending that man is getting better, okay, when it's pretty obvious, according to the Bible, that man is getting worse. And I don't mean a little bit worse. I mean progressively worse, okay? So you've got men back then living 900 years on an average. They're building stuff and probably doing stuff that we can't even fathom. Okay, and so then they're all killed in the flood. And then Moses, Noah, he actually has a lot of this information, But picture this. He gets off of the ark, okay, and he's basically thrust back into the Stone Age. So he may have known how to do a lot of that stuff, and he probably witnessed it being done. But now here is, he gets off the ark, and all he has is his hands and some hand tools. So now he has to literally start all over. It would be like one of you listening out there, that's an electrical engineer, and you can know how everything works, right? But then you're stranded on a desert island. Well, are you going to have a light bulb in the next 5 years? Now, you know how a light bulb works. You know how to make a light bulb. You know everything there is to know about a light bulb and electricity. But you're stranded on an island with no electricity, okay, and no light bulbs. All you have is your hands and a stick. And your first priority is going to be to eat and drink. So you're going to spend majority of your time trying to catch something to eat, find something to drink, and find some shelter. The last thing on your mind is going to be, hey, I need to invent a light bulb, or I know how to invent it. I know how to make it. I just had the tungsten laying around. Well, you're not going to have it, and you're not going to have the tools to dig it up. Okay, so right after the flood, we reverted back to basically Stone Age, but men were so smart back then, it excelled again really quickly, and that's where we got Nimrod and the Tower of Babel, and everything got really out of hand really quick, and that's why God, according to the Bible, separated everybody out. He confounded their language because they were just, going crazy, basically. And so here we are again. We're almost back to, I say almost, back to where everybody can communicate. And we can do that through, apps, AI, whatever. And, we can do stuff like this podcast can go to Tokyo in 1 hour type deal. So we're getting back to where everything is, happening at the same time, but we're still not anywhere near where they were back then. So yes, I believe that they did build lots of stuff, and it did get buried in the flood. And there's probably a lot of stuff got buried, after the flood. All kinds of stuff was built after the flood by remnants of giants, because there were giants after the flood too. So probably fallen angels running around as well. So they're building stuff, lots of stuff way back when. And, giving out their knowledge, probably in exchange for worship. So these pagans are worshiping these false gods that are appearing to them, and they're actually fallen angels. And then they're given this information. They can build stuff that we can't even fathom. And now, here, thousands of years later, we're out there digging, and we find this temple or whatever, and then people are like, huh. Then they claim they built it. They slap a new date on it and say, oh, yeah, we built that in the 1600s, 1800s. Oh, yeah, we built that. It's like, really? Wow. How'd you guys do it? So, yeah, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of that. Okay, let's see. He also says, I don't believe our historic timeline. I believe Jesus was here maybe hundreds of years ago, not 2,000. Well, I don't know about that one. That one is, let's see here. I've got some notes I took on that. Let's see here. We've got, obviously, Jesus is named in the Gospels. Let's see here. So the New Testament doesn't give an exact year number as far as, that goes, but it does anchor Jesus to specific people that are dated, and not just biblical. We're talking like history books. So, for example, Herod the Great was ruling when Jesus was born, according to Matthew 2, and Herod died in 4 BC. Okay, so Jesus' public ministry begins in the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar, because they had a whole bunch of Caesars. And that's Luke 3:1. And according to the the research I found, Tiberius began in AD 14. So, and then Jesus was executed under Pontius Pilate, Roman prefect of Judea, and that was around AD 26 to 36. So you put all that stuff together, they're thinking the birth is probably between 6 and 4 BC, and the crucifixion probably between AD 30 or AD 33. I mean, that's based on all the writings and everything that they have found, and we're talking historic type things, even non-Christian writings. Let's see here. For example, I found that, let's see, Tacitus was a Roman historian writing around AD 116. So 116 AD, he says that Christ was executed by Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius, and that Christians were already numerous in Rome by Nero's time, AD 64. That came from Wikipedia. Okay, so if that's true, that puts him, everything kind of keeps putting it at the same time. So, let's see, Josephus, a Jewish historian writing in the 90s AD, not 1990s, 90 AD, refers to Jesus, who was called Christ, and to his execution under Pilate, and to the continued existence of his followers. Most scholars think his passage has some Christian editing, but is an authentic historical one. So, again, let's see. So basically, even on secular grounds, Jesus cannot be a medieval figure or someone from just a few hundred years ago. He's already a historical figure in documents that themselves are 1,900 years old. So some of these documents that he's mentioned in are 1,900 years old, and they can prove that supposedly. So I don't have any reason to disagree that Jesus lived 2,000 years ago. Now, are they manipulating other stuff and dates and everything? I'm sure they are. They're doing anything they can to fool you and to get you to go to hell. But so I'm sure they would love to get you confused on a bunch of dates and try to claim Christ lived in the 1950s or something, which is absolutely ridiculous. Okay? That way they can make it look like you're a fool if you follow Christ. That's my opinion. Okay. Let's see here. This one was a Thanksgiving Day story, if anybody listened to that. That was a little short podcast I did that basically goes through the high points of evolution. And I did it in a ridiculous, what I thought was comedy. Some people probably didn't like it. But basically making fun of the evolutionary theory and story. And so basically, because for Thanksgiving, supposedly the Tyrannosaurus Rex evolved, not de-evolved, evolved into a chicken and into a turkey. So they claim that a T-Rex eventually turned into a chicken and turkeys. And so I thought, hey, we might as well tell the story of the Thanksgiving turkey, right? Because it used to be a T-Rex, according to evolutionists. If you can believe a most ridiculous story like that. Okay. So, I've got somebody here and I can't read their information. It's just way too long. I have no idea what that says, but they commented and said, all that to say that you don't like turkey. So I thought that was funny. Because I do like turkey. So maybe I would like a big juicy T-Rex as well. I don't know. Maybe they taste the same, right? If a T-Rex really existed. Probably didn't. So let's see here. All Capstone Jimmy. I think that's what it says. Let's see. Does the King James Bible teach flat earth? And he says, you're exactly right, Kenny. They spend all their time in front of the television watching their fake sports and drinking their Kool-Aid instead of things that they're supposed to be looking at. Puppets controlled by their puppeteers. Well, that is what I said. I I do believe that people spend way too much time in front of a television watching Netflix, watching the news, and watching their Hollywood superstars, and it's like a guy that I follow, Fittest Flat Earther, if you ever listen to his stuff. I'm trying to get him on the show, by the way. But he is really into fallen angels and how they take on human form, and they're trapped here, according to him. They're trapped. They can't get out. They're not in hell. They're not in heaven, and they can't leave Earth. So they're trapped here. So what they do is they take on human form, and they take forms of these basically superstars like Michael Jordan, for example. These other big people that you know. And according to him, they're like vampires. Okay, they take on a human form, and they'll stay in that form for so long till that form gets so old or whatever. Then they kill that one off, and then they go into another one. And so, for example, he says that Michael Jordan is one. Okay, and he's got videos where Michael Jordan is dribbling the ball, and his arm gets real long out there, and it's like, that's weird. Maybe that's something wrong with the camera, but, I mean, we're talking the arm looks like it's got way longer than it should have. And then, of course, as it is, my theory is they have to tell what they're doing. Then he comes out in another one, in a movie, where he's doing the same thing in the movie, and his arm does stretch real long, and he's able to make the basket. So he puts these together and says, see, you've got a film of it happening that nobody noticed, but then they show you it happening in a Hollywood movie. And the reason these guys, for example, he says, these fallen angels take on forms like that is so they can basically be worshiped. So, because so many people loved Michael Jordan, Jordan this, Jordan that, wearing the shoes, wearing the everything. Everything's Jordan, Jordan, Jordan at one point. Well, see, that's a fallen angel taking on that form. And so that's a way he's getting worship. See? So he has some very interesting stuff on that, which I really like to talk to him about it. He's got a whole bunch of stuff. But yes, I believe that there are people that have this stuff running, sports, other stuff, just to keep your mind away from the prize, which you should be being saved. You should be thinking about Jesus Christ. You should be thinking about reading your Bible, but instead you're reading sports magazines. Instead of doing anything you're supposed to be doing, you're concentrated on these so-called movie stars and athletes, which according to him are nothing more than fallen angels, doing this stuff. I don't know. Okay, here's another one here. This one was on a Thanksgiving story. It says, here's one for your arsenal, my friend. If the Earth spins at 1,040 miles an hour and commercial airliner only flies at 950, how is it going to catch up to the spin to get to its destination? Well, that's a good question, or a good statement. The globe theory, the fake globe theory, says that the Earth is spinning, like you said, like 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. And initially, the air wasn't spinning at that speed. So if you were planted on the Earth and it's moving at 1,000 miles an hour, but the air isn't, you would have what appears to be wind of 1,000 miles an hour, right? Well, how the fake scientists and liars get away with that is now they're claiming that the atmosphere is actually spinning at the same speed as the Earth beneath it. Okay? So that way, if you're on an airplane and you're flying east to west, let's say, you don't either pick up or lose any speed because the atmosphere is moving at the same speed. Well, it's like, well, how is the atmosphere moving at the same speed? Well, because of friction, see, over millions and billions of years, it just somehow sped up. But anybody that has a brain in their head that knows anything about anything spinning, like a clutch in your car, okay, is you can get something up, you can slip something and get it up to speed, but it also occasionally starts slipping. You see what I'm saying? It would have to constantly have the friction of being applied. There would be some slippage, in other words. So if you've got something traveling at 1,000 miles an hour and you've got slippage, you could have hundreds of miles an hour winds just suddenly when the slippage happens. But see, you don't have any of that. And then on top of that, you have the atmosphere supposedly moving at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, but yet you can feel a warm breeze. And butterflies can just trickle around, say, and fly, and a little bit of a breeze happens and blows bubbles, whatever. So see, you've got the stillness of everything, which you can see with your own two eyes, and then you've got the liars come out and claim that it's moving at 1,000 miles an hour, but you're just too stupid to know. Okay? So you walk outside and you lay on your back in a grassy field, and you're looking up at clouds that are just barely moving, looking at shapes in the clouds. They're claiming that that's moving 1,000 miles an hour, and so are you. I mean, why are the clouds moving at a different speed? Well, they're moving at a different speed because the air is moving 1,000 miles an hour. Everything they say is stupid. But see, you're not stupid. It's stupid. Okay? Remember that. Everything they say is stupid and a lie. Okay, let's see here. On this episode, episode 260, does the King James Bible teach flat earth? MS 373 says, good points, Kenny. Thank you for speaking the truth. This video reminds me that people know everything and don't want to hear it, and that many will never break the programming. That's true. I was thinking about that here a while back because, there's a preacher, that I have a recording of, and he says flat earth's ridiculous. How dare you mention flat earth? It's one of those deals again. And he says, I'm a King James Bible believer, and if the King James Bible taught flat earth, I would believe it. Okay. And so then he rattles off a few things and says, that don't prove flat earth. No, what you rattled off doesn't prove flat earth. No, it doesn't prove anything. Why didn't you read the good stuff? But he won't. They won't read anything where it talks about the moon and the sun moving in its own circuit. No, we don't want to read that. They don't want to read anything about where God made the sun stop and go backwards. But he says he believes the Bible, but he doesn't believe that God made the sun stop and go backwards. Oh, well, they didn't know what they're talking about. They miswrote it. They misquoted. So now all of a sudden you don't believe it. First you believed it, now you don't believe it. First you believe it's God's word, now all of a sudden it's full of mistakes and errors and God's an idiot and he doesn't know what he's talking about. But so they can't make up their mind. And then if you tell them, try to pinpoint it, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear anything else. So, I mean, that sounds like a really good church to go to, don't it? Your preacher is a know-it-all, but knows nothing. He only knows what he thinks he knows. And if you're like, oh, I caught something, or let me have a question, I don't want to hear it. I know it all. I'm the authority. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck getting through to a guy like that. Okay? Knows it all. Won't even listen to anything else. So you could pretty much see that by the video on that one. The guy was just a know-it-all. I've known guys like that at work. Okay? You can't teach them anything because they know it all. But yet they seem to can't do the job either. And it's like, well, if you'll do this, this, or that, oh, I know it all. Okay. And they don't last very long. They end up getting fired because they know nothing. They just think they know it all. Okay, let's see here. El Chimpo here, or E. Chimpo. I will never get over the fact that society tells us we have to listen and to believe the satanic Nazi wizard organization on anything. Well, society, the world, tells you a lot of things, okay? That's why Christians are supposed to be in the world, but not of the world. We're not supposed to believe this junk. Okay, let the worldly people do that. Okay, all your Kardashians, people like that, people that love Kardashians, love this kind of stuff. They're of the world. And they're all going to burn in hell. Okay, that's what they're going to do. They love the world so much, they'll die for it. And when they die, they'll wake up in hell and they'll be like, oh, man. But then it's too late. Okay, let's see here. So this one was on episode 253. Is Garth Brooks a serial killer? Possibly. Okay. So this person, Shelby_Faye97, says, do you think he picked the name Chris Gaines to kind of reflect the name Ed Gein and his murders? Maybe. Maybe he did. I watched a deal on this one actually today from the Fittest Flat Earther. He actually has a deal about Garth Brooks being a serial killer. And I think he claims that he is the same guy, that this, fallen angel thing is morphed from the one into the other. And he used to be the killer. So who knows? I mean, God only knows what these people are doing, but, these people don't get in these positions without doing something evil and without worshiping the devil. So he's either a devil, he's either a fallen angel, or he worships it. And that's probably how he has got away with what he's got away with to this point. It's the same way as all the other pedophiles and everything we hear about constantly. How are they getting away with this stuff all the time? Well, they're in this circle, see, where they all take care of each other because they're all in the same group. A group that we're never going to be a part of. We wouldn't want to be a part of it because we know where they're going to end up, in hell. So why would we want to be a part of a devil group? Okay. You see, so they're in that little group. That's why, hey, even if a policeman does find some clues, he's going to run it up the ladder a little bit, then it's going to be shot down. Okay, that's how it always goes. That's how the FBI has been doing it for years. I mean, everybody knows that the FBI is nothing but a gangster group. If whoever's in charge tells the FBI you're good, you're good. You can literally be found with a dead body in your front yard. Like Obama was. His gay cook, shows up dead in the pool in the front yard. Of course, Obama's, he's gay as well. He's living with a transvestite. I mean, pretty much anybody can see that. So he's living with a drag queen, right? He's gay as a $2 bill or a $3 bill. However they say that. He's gay as a $3 bill. And his cook, which you can tell one look at him, he's gay as well. Okay, they were probably doing something they weren't supposed to be doing, or he found out something, and so they killed him and threw him in the pool. Do you think there's any investigations done like that? Of course not. FBI shows up and says, everybody get out, we got it. No crime here. But then at the same time, they can turn around and say, oh, we got a report on you from XXX, blah, 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 and you're under arrest. Just put you in a hole. You may not even get a trial. You're guilty. That's kind of stuff they do. So, if I had a dead body show up in my pool in the front yard under mysterious circumstances, I would probably be arrested on the spot. But do you think Obama's going to be arrested? Of course not. So all those people are in it together. Okay? That's why none of them are in jail. That's why they can push things onto you that you don't need, that ends up killing you and your family and your friends and your kids, and they're sitting back with a big smile on their face with a pocket full of money. And they go retire somewhere and live on private islands and have yachts and everything, while we're here having to work and pay our taxes. And you miss 5 cents off your tax, then they come and try to put you in jail for it. You see, it's a whole nother deal that we're never going to be a part of. Okay? And I believe he's into that deal there. So he could probably he can literally probably have the blood splattered all over his face, and they'll just wipe his face off, the FBI would, and say, get back on stage. Okay, nothing to see here. They'd probably cover the crime up for him. Wouldn't doubt that one bit. Okay, let's see. Another one here, episode 249, the climate change hoax. Somebody says Micah says, Great episode. I'm trying to get my friends to believe that all this is a hoax, but they're very much believing the narrative. Well, turn off that stinking propaganda tube. Okay? I mean, I see bits and pieces of it on X. I mean, it's so stupid. You've got the same stinking clowns on TV saying the same stupid rhetoric over and over and over. It's like, sit down and shut up. You haven't been right yet. But they're up there in their suits looking like, I don't know, they've died, went to hell, and been re-resurrected somehow, and they've stuck them up on a stage. I mean, they look like devils. They all real ugly, nasty looking. You know, John Kerry. You know, it looks like his face is, you know, he looked one way, and the next thing you see him years ago, all of a sudden he looks completely different, like another man, kind of like Joe Biden. He looks a certain way, and then all of a sudden he's a completely different man. But he's Joe Biden. Same way. John Kerry went through the same thing. He used to look a certain way, and then all of a sudden he appears and he looks completely different. But nobody remembers the old one. They don't want to put any pictures side by side. So now you've got that freak in front of TV, in front of the movie cameras, you know. We've got to do something about climate change. That's all he talks about now is climate change, climate change. Pay them money. Give up your rights for climate change. You know, this has been going on, like I said in the deal, for years. Every 10 years they come up with a new hoax, and it never happens. Oh, but they get the money every time. Oh, every time they get the money. That's why they've got 10, 15 homes, private jets, on and on and on. And of course, you know, like that Kerry guy, you know, he was asked that one time, oh, you know, you need to quit driving your car, start carpooling, you know, that kind of stuff. It's like, wait a second. Don't you have a couple of big private jets? Oh, no, I sure don't. Oh, no way. But it's listed as such as, oh, well, those are my wife's. Those don't personally belong to me. They're in my wife's name. Now, I travel all over the world in them, but hey, they're not mine. Now, don't you ask about the millions of gallons of jet fuel, okay? What you need to do is carpool or ride a bicycle. Okay, we'll put up some bicycle lanes, and you can be out here in the 100-degree weather with a basket on your bike trying to get to work, okay? And then when it's raining and sleeting and snowing and 13 below zero, then you need to be on your bicycle, okay? But don't you worry, I'll be in a stretch limo, in a high-rise, or in a jet airplane, or in a mansion. But you need to worry all about climate change, okay? You know it's coming. Anybody that would listen to these fools is themselves a fool. Just like Obama. Oh, well, he's a big one. Climate change, climate change, climate change. Ice is melting. Oceans are rising. Any fool ought to know better than that. Okay? I'm not a science professor, but let me show you a little something like this. You see this cup right here? I filled it full of ice. And then I poured a Diet Dr. Pepper on top of it. If I let this thing sit here all night, this cup will not overflow. It'll have the same level it's got in it right now. Do you want to know why? Because as the ice melts, it turns into liquid. But it doesn't get any more volume. It stays the same. So, but these clowns here, they'll say, oh, there's ice. There's ice in the oceans. And when it melts, the oceans are going to rise. This doesn't rise, and it's full of ice. And when the ice melts, it doesn't rise. So why would the oceans? It's already being offset by the ice. It's already as high as it's going to go. If all the ice melted, it would still be the same height. Because the ice is in the water already. You see? It's ridiculous. And then you've got guys like Obama building mansions on the beach in Hawaii. Well, why would you build a $20 million mansion on the beach in Hawaii if you honestly believe that the oceans are rising? Your mansion is going to be flooded. But see, you think they believe that? Do you think Oprah Winfrey believes that? She's got a big mansion and a bunch of property over there in Hawaii. All these big rich people have got, land right on the beach. Of course, they're all talking about the ocean's rising. But they don't seem to be too concerned about it, do they? Of course not. Of course they're not. Because it's fake. It's been fake. It's fake. All right. Yeah, that climate change hoax that's one they're still doing. I mean, they're running the auto industry. They're trying to run everything. They're running the air conditioning industry by putting out tons of, you can't have refrigerant anymore. You can't cool your stuff off anymore unless we put this gas in it that's real explosive because it's better for the atmosphere. Now, it'll kill you, but we don't care if you die. All we care is about this. So they're running everything with this EPA junk constantly. And the funny thing is, no other country even does it. It's only us. It's only us. Russia, China, Japan, none of them. None of them do it. They're all laughing while we're doing it. Okay? They all think we're idiots. And we are, for allowing it to happen. Yeah, meanwhile, they do whatever they want. Okay. Let's see here. The Devil and Bob Dylan, episode 256. It says, Chimpo again. This was a great video. It'd be very interesting to see how many of these fools have actually admitted to this sort of thing and to what degree they are open about it. I'd also like to know if you've ever made a video refuting the contradictions these deceived non-believers can't stop talking about, because I'd love to learn ways to prove them wrong. I think you'd be great at arguing against them. The best of luck, and God be with you. I appreciate that. A bunch of these guys, of these fools, have admitted it. And I had a guy years ago on the podcast. He talked about it. He actually used to have videos out, and I can't find them now. But he had videos of almost every actor, actress you can imagine, where they were being interviewed at some place, sometime, in an interview you've never seen before AI, of course. And they're all admitting it. Every one of it admits something to do with the devil, Lucifer, worshiping the devil, every single one of them. And it's just like, well, of course. That's what they all do. Anybody that believes anything otherwise is living under a rock. Okay, these guys got to their positions because of Satan. Satan is using them. And they like it because they like the attention, they like the money, but the only thing they're not going to like is when they go straight to hell when it's over with. They're not going to be so happy then. And then when they get stuck back up before God in front of the white throne judgment, God is a respecter of no persons, so they ain't getting no special treatment then either. Okay? They think they are. Oh, well, don't you know me? I'm such and such from the movie, such. I don't care. I'm not a respecter of persons. Let's take a look at those sins, at those crimes. Let's take a look and see if you have the blood of Jesus Christ. Oh, you don't? Oh, right into the lake of fire. So, yeah, they're all in on it. Okay, and then we've also got, contradictions. I've got a whole bunch of information and other podcasts on contradictions in the Bible where people are like, oh, it says this, but every single one of them, they've either misread it, they're reading a perverted Bible, they're lying, or they just don't understand. So, every single one of them can be refuted, and I've got guys that have done that before. I just have to hear what they're claiming and look into it. Okay. Let's take a look at another one here. Episode 255 said, when God says don't pray, says Kyle E. Mack says, thanks for covering a question that will routinely come come up in church fellowship. Well, you know, that all has to do with, you know, what are you praying for? Who are you praying for? God in several times says, don't pray for people. He even told his prophets, don't bother. I'm not listening. So once you've become a reprobate, okay, or a heretic, after the second or third admonition, you become a heretic and you're done. I mean, you can pray. Me personally, I pray that people get saved and come to the truth. I pray that. But I know people who are heretics and they blaspheme God and they think it's funny and they think I'm an idiot. They call me names for doing it. So how much time should I spend praying for them? You know, I'll do a general sweeping prayer, but I'm not going to sit here and waste my time praying for a heretic, praying for a blasphemer. It's like, hey, God knows I want everybody saved. I'm just like God. God says, hey, I want everybody to be saved. If it was up to him, everybody would get saved, but they ain't going to. Now, I've got real problems, and real things to pray about, like my own personal situations and my daughters and, stuff like that. Stuff, people you need to pray for that are trying to make it in this world. And, you've got governments purposely poisoning people and genociding people that don't know any better. But you've got some that do know better and the ones that are doing it. So am I going to pray for them? No. I hear it all the time on the radio. Like I said, pray for, this was back before, when the Joe Biden was supposedly in office. Oh, you've got to pray for your leaders. Pray for Joe Biden. Pray for Joe Biden. It's like, okay. Number one, I don't believe that's Joe Biden. Okay, so pray for Joe Biden. Well, where is he? Do you mean the freak that's standing up here in front of us that doesn't even look like the same man? But you keep pretending and it is, even though it clearly isn't. Okay, praying for him. Well, clearly he's either a devil in disguise, a fallen angel in disguise, some kind of a shape-shifting vampire, something devilish. He's a compulsive liar. All he talks about is trans and killing babies. That's what he loves. You need to get an abortion as fast as you can, and if you have all your body parts on, you need to switch and have all your body parts cut off. Oh, and by the way, pay me. Pray for him. I pray that he gets exactly what's coming to him. And I know exactly what it's going to be. He's going to be burning in hell. Prove me wrong. It's like another guy I listened to. He said people accuse him of being a fruit inspector. Well, that's what I am. I'm a fruit inspector. Show me your fruit. I can see your fruit. Okay? And it's nasty. It's rotted. Everything you talk about is murdering babies, murdering people, butchering children, cutting children's body parts off, ruining their lives, pushing poison on people that's killed them, killed their kids, killed their grandparents, pushing out ridiculous laws where people can't even hug their grandparents while their grandparents are dying. Stuff like that. Endless. And then you sit up here with your big fake ugly smile and your stupid look on your face. Not even the same guy. Oh, the old guy had separated earlobes. The new guy's earlobes are connected. Stuff that doesn't happen. They don't even do that in plastic surgery. They don't sew your earlobes on. So why are your earlobes connected and the other guy's isn't? Maybe you're not the same guy. But, hey, they put you up in front of a TV set and all of a sudden you're the same guy and nobody wants to hear anything other. But, according to, the Positive Difference radio stations, you better pray for him. Pray for him. Oh, he needs your prayers. Oh, he needs prayers, all right. Yeah, he sure does. And the fallen angels and the devils he's worshiping, maybe they need prayers too. Why don't you spend all your time praying for the devil and see where it gets you? It's not going to get you anywhere. Or you could pray for things that God's actually listening to. That's the way I see it. These guys have already got judgment pronounced on them. Okay? They're already hell-bound. The Bible says so. So what are you going to do? Pray them out of hell? That's where they're going. Okay, let's see here. Off of that thing. I could talk all day about that too. Okay, when this guy says, okay. Hey, Kenny, I just want to say thank you for what you do, and I want to encourage you to keep doing your podcast. They're very informative, and they really help me. Thank you. You do a great job of spreading the truth while making entertaining content that really helped me to keep my mind on Christ when I'm struggling with sin. God bless you. I appreciate that. See, every once in a while, I get a positive comment. That is the goal here. Okay? Get saved before it's too late. Okay, now this other stuff, it's not necessarily salvation. However, if you want to know why everything is going on around you and you just don't understand it, well, that's why we need to go back and look at stuff in the Bible. You know, people don't understand, well, why would they be doing that when it's going to kill them too? Well, number one, either they're not human, they don't care because they've been promised something that we're unaware of, or they just have a reprobate mind and God is allowing them to believe a strong delusion and they think that they're going to live through it when they're not. And the devil's in control. And if you're a human being, if you're a man or a woman or a child, which is a man or a woman, the devil hates you. Okay? He hates you because God loves you. So because God wants you to get saved and live forever, the devil wants you to not get saved and go to hell and burn forever. You see? He wants you dead. He wants you distracted. That's why there's thousands of sports teams and alcohol and drugs and cigarettes and strip bars and pornos and every kind of nasty thing you can think of. That way you look over here and you don't look at God because he wants you to go to hell. Anything he can get you off of God and get you sidetracked, that's what he's hoping he can do. He's hoping as you're growing, first of all, he hopes that when you get, first of all, okay, let's back up. First of all, he hopes that you don't even get conceived because he doesn't want you alive. He hopes that your parents don't have any kids. But then, if you are conceived in the womb, he wants you dead. So he wants you to be aborted. Now, yes, your soul is going to enter into you that God gave you, and you're going to get to go to heaven as a baby. Okay, an unborn baby is what I believe. Let's see, and the devil knows that. That's fine. He just doesn't want you alive on earth. He wants you murdered because God doesn't want you murdered. And so then if you make it past that, then he's going to say, okay, well, they got born, but now we need to get them brainwashed. So then they start on the dinosaurs. They start on the fake space. They start on all the stuff, evolution, monkeys, Big Bang. And they try to get you integrated in where you don't believe in God. That way, if you do survive, you're hell-bound. And then if you actually start to learn something and put something together, then we need to get you killed. We need to get your body parts chopped off. Okay, we need to make it where you can no longer breed. So if you're a boy, let's get it in your mind that you're a girl and let's chop everything off. If you're a girl, let's get it in your mind that you're a boy, chop everything off and give you a bunch of drugs. And if none of that works, then they're like, oh, well, let's see here. Well, we've still got the poison in the water. We've still got the poison in the air. We're still going to poison all their food. Maybe we can get them to, get sick and curse out at God and deny God maybe because they're miserable. Maybe that'll work. If none of that works, well, maybe you found your way here and you realize that all that is set up for you to fail, but a lot of it's right up here in the brain. Okay. Once you get this brain fixed and get it set on God, then you start realizing all this other stuff is like a fantasy. Okay? It can't hurt you unless you allow it to. Okay? You don't have to be involved in drag queens and trans unless you want to. You can look the other way. You don't have to look at it. You can read your Bible if you want. You don't have to follow movie stars around and mimic everything they do. Okay? You don't have to do any of that stuff. Now, do you have to live here in this world with them spraying chemtrails above your head? Yeah. Now that is probably worth praying for. That's something that I pray about right there. I pray that children of God, which is the body of Christ, which is the church in the New Testament, and all my family and friends are protected from the stuff the government is purposely trying to get on you that you don't want. So, you can be trying to do everything right, and you walk outside and you get sprayed in the face with a chemtrail and it poisons you. Well, how can you fight against that when you can't even walk outside? You see, you can't. But that's something worth praying about, in my opinion. Pray for protection. That the people that are actually the body of Christ, the church, protect them from these evil, from the chemtrails, from the poison in the water, from guys like Fauci. Give people discernment so they don't go out and fall for the devil's tricks. Because that's what's happening. Every corner, every turn is propaganda to try to get you to take or do something to try to shorten your life or end your life. And of course, the goal is hopefully you haven't got saved yet. So whenever that life ends, you get to go straight to hell. Now, once you're saved, you've got that protection. Your name's in the Lamb Book of Life. Okay. In the Lamb's Book of Life, if you die, so be it. You're going to heaven. And you'll eventually get to come back down with Christ whenever he returns on Judgment Day for Armageddon. You'll be on the horses, I'm sure. You'll be part of his army. So you're going to get to see it all. But you got to be saved. He don't ever want you to get to that point. He's going to try to stall you out all the way. From birth in the womb all the way up. Get you stalled out. Keep your eye off that prize. Remember that. Okay, here, let's see. I keep getting on. Let's see, how long has it been? It's already been 52 minutes. I get on these rants and raves, and goodness gracious. I get on a soapbox, and I can't get off of it. Okay. Oh, let's see here. So we've got another one that says, shocking, great episode. Had to do with Garth Brooks. Thank you. I appreciate it. Another one, Garth Brooks. Wow, this is very enlightening. No problem. Another one. That was a really good episode. Enjoyed every minute. That was by Joe. Thank you, Joe. Okay, well, I've got tons and tons and tons. I wanted to jump on here and it signed me out. There it is. Those are all on Spotify, by the way. Those are comments. I have a ton on YouTube as well. Let me just cover a couple of them real quick, and I'll try to get off of here. So this one is on Garth Brooks as a serial killer. It was pretty popular. He says, this guy named Ty, he says, I'm going to zag and say there's little chance that Garth is a murderer. I guess that means, hey, zig and zag, and I'm going to zag, right? I'm going to zag and say there's little chance that Garth is a murderer. Okay? Mostly all of your speculation is from a book of satire. Well, okay. That's true. But just cover that real quick. I've watched an interview with the guys that wrote that book, and you have to say it's satire. Okay? Just like if you go on to TikTok and these people are saying stuff, they say, now this is all for show. This is satire. I didn't mean it. Because if you say it as a fact, then all of a sudden you can get sued. If he came out and said, this is a fact, this really happened, then Garth Brooks could sue him. So yes, he came out with a book and he says, now this is all satire. This is fake. You see what I mean? Take that in consideration. It says, Garth was way too popular just to walk around places without being seen by everyone, including especially the paparazzi. There's no way that the crew close to him would have kept all of this under wraps if they knew. Okay. No way that all those people, his wife, kids, loved ones, etc., would not know something and would not say something. Well, he did it when he was traveling, supposedly. They weren't around. Oh, goodness. Let's see. Also, most of the time, cereals don't just stop. They usually get sloppy, cocky. Well, and, unless they've got somebody covering up for them, right? Well, I do think he's a little off. We all are, not that far. I don't believe Garth is near smart, calculated enough to do this for decades. We're giving him way too much credit on way too little real evidence. I've talked to myself so many times, LOL. Sadly, I've seen a couple pass away. I've been within 20 miles of deaths that I had no idea even happened over my life. So have you. Chris Gaines was just marketing to get into the rock movie scene. Alternative rock was huge at the time, so was Garth. They thought it made sense, and Garth could get into acting too, but people hated it. It's really just rebranding gone wrong, not a real alter ego. Many artists have tried doing different things. Yeah, The Undertaker didn't break character either. Famous people have been sued. Segura is just as happy that you're all still talking about it. It's a troll job. Same with the bookmaker. If I'm wrong and it is real, Garth is aware of the attention it's gotten and has erased the bodies thanks to the many people who openly speak about it on social media. But collecting bodies would have been the way too hard to do without help from a lot of people. Well, maybe you're right. And I didn't say he's one for a fact. I said, is he? Based on speculation, it's just lots of coincidences, And maybe they are coincidences. And maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was one of the guys on the crew doing the whole thing, and I don't know. But supposedly people have been seen, in that looked like him near the scene of the crime. And as far as paparazzi, do we have paparazzi following people around like that now these days? I don't know. Maybe we do. If they're out in a bus traveling somewhere, do we know where they're at when they make fuel stops? I don't know. I don't know. And maybe we are giving him too much credit. But maybe not. Maybe he's, one of these fallen angel deals like the other guy says, Fittest Flat Earther thinks that he is a fallen angel shapeshifter type deal, and it's just in this form right at the moment. So I don't think they would have a problem killing. So I don't know. That's why I put the podcast out there. I thought it was really interesting. And maybe that Segura, the guy that did it originally in the podcast, maybe it was all fake. I don't know. But yeah, they've got a book about it. I got the information from the book. And I would have to say the same thing. I'd say, it's all satire. Believe whatever you want. Okay, another one here. He says, okay, dude, what's wrong with you? That's not what all he said. He does a little cursing in there. But apparently he didn't like the podcast about Garth Brooks because he says, okay, dude, what's wrong with you? Okay. And maybe I said okay too many times in the podcast. I don't remember. I probably did because I was trying to read from a book at the same time. Okay, this guy here, he says, I've listened to several podcasts on this subject, same one, Garth Brooks. You've presented this in the most engaging, storytelling way. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Let's see. Got another guy about it. It says, Brooks is a tribal name, right? I don't know. I don't know about that. Okay, I guess. I must have said okay several times because somebody else says, if you say okay one more time, I'll watch what I say. I probably did say, okay. That's a bad habit. Sorry about that. Thank you for pointing that out. Let's see here. Yeah. I won't say okay. I think that's it for today on that. So anyway, as always, like I said, I enjoy the comments. I do read the comments. I like the comments. And hey, I read them and I listen, just like this guy here. You know, two people in a row said, hey, quit saying okay. So apparently I say okay too much. So I'm going to watch that, because I wouldn't want to hear somebody say okay over either. So I'll stop doing that. I'm gonna consciously be like, don't say okay. But anyway, so comments, questions, I read them. I try to reply to them on the app itself, and I like to do podcasts on the questions and answers. So please comment, leave a question. You can also send me an email at truthseekers2012@gmail.com. You can do that. You can go to my website. It's flatbro.com. You can go to truthseekersministry.org. Let's see what else. I think that's about it off the top of my head. Of course, like always, like I tell people here, if you are interested in Flat Earth and the Flat Earth book, I have that Flat Earth Bible. It is on Amazon. Just type in Kenny Williamson. It'll show up. I'm on Spotify, of course, as you can see there, under Melchizedek Chronicles by Dr. Kenny Williamson. Go on there and please subscribe, like it, share it, and rate it to kind of beat the algorithms. I'm on YouTube, and like some people have said, you know, I've got like barely 200 subscribers, and I've literally been on YouTube for like 15 years. Maybe not quite that long. It's been a long time, but I guess it's shadow banned. I don't know. But if you want to, you know, go on there, subscribe, whatever. And of course, I'm on Rumble, also under Kenny Williamson Official, if you want to check any of that out. I'm also on Patreon. I don't put everything on Patreon, but I do have some interesting stuff on there if you're interested. Okay? So, having said all that, thanks for listening. I guess I'll get off of here. Thanks for listening, and please, more comments, more questions. I like them. Thanks for listening. If I don't hear from you, until I hear from you again, or until I see you again, God bless you.